We are glad you're still tuned in to Seetv. Welcome to this edition of The Big Debate. I'm Heston Munanura, standing in for Gabriel Iguma, the regular host of the show, who will be with us next week. Well, tonight we are discussing matters Parliament. A friend of mine once told me that the greatest problem of Africa are three reasons: leadership, and the second problem is leadership, and the third problem is leadership. Being that leadership is the greatest problem Africa is facing. Well, tonight we are discussing Parliament and how our leaders in Parliament are taking parliamentary business. The 11th Parliament, as you know, has had its fair share of melodrama, also coming off a little bit trivial and petty in some issues, but also the same Parliament has delivered and stood strong on some concrete issues. Well, tonight, that is what we are discussing, assessing the quality of debate in Parliament, specifically the 11th Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at our panel tonight that is going to discuss this pertinent topic.
Our panel tonight. Dennis Nyangweso is a Ugandan politician and member of parliament representing Samia Bugwe Central. Nyangweso is a human resource professional, having worked in the Ministry of Public Service, Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and the Health Service Commission before quitting to join elective politics. Nyangweso holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Sciences, a Master of Arts degree in Public Administration and Management. He is also a member of the Parliamentary Committee on Public Service and Local Government, a member of the Budget Committee of Parliament, and a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Budget PACOB, where he is the Vice Chairperson of the Public Sector Strengthening Cluster. Andrew Ojokolanya is a Ugandan politician and member of the Ugandan Parliament representing Omoro County, having won in the recent by-election to represent his late father and former Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya. Ojok is an IT professional, having worked with the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda, NITAU, and has experience in enterprise IT system design, development and implementation with diverse technical teams and clients both in the private and public sectors. Ojok is a second-generation member of parliament and spent most of his adult life learning from one of the best legislators, the late Jacob Olanya, who was Deputy Speaker for 2 terms and Speaker of the 11th Parliament before his unfortunate demise. Henry Muguzi is the founding national coordinator of Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring, a consortium of civil society organizations that banded together to foster transparency and accountability in financing of political and electoral processes in Uganda. He specializes in governance, accountability, project design, evaluation and reviews. His 18-year career has seen him work with the New Vision Printing and Publishing Corporation, WBS Television, following which he turned to civil society activism. He holds a master's in public administration and management and a bachelor's degree in political science and public administration, and a myriad of postgraduate certificates in various disciplines. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel tonight.
All right, that is our panel tonight, and let's welcome to the show, gentlemen. I'd like to begin with Honorable Nyangweso. Tell us the general overview of how Parliament is handling business currently.
Yeah, thank you, moderator, and good evening, viewers of Seetv. Parliament handles business in a structured manner because it's a structured institution. We handle our work as Parliament in 5 sessions a term, and each session is basically a financial year. And within those sessions we have meetings. We normally hold like 3 meetings in a session. Within those meetings there are a series of sittings. Today we had the 29th sitting of the first meeting of the second session of the 11th Parliament. So that is basically business on the floor or in the plenary. But that is just one of the key roles of Parliament, of representation through legislation. We have other roles of Parliament, like oversight. The oversight role in Parliament is by law given to the leadership of opposition, because they provide oversight and check on the government. So the leadership is taken over by the shadow cabinet. They allocate their members to be the leader and the deputy leader. Then other members, including the ruling party, populate the committees. So these are they play oversight role. When you hear Public Accounts Committee, when you hear COSASE, when you hear Local Government Public Accounts Committee, these are among what we call the standing committees of Parliament. We have other standing committees that they are not oversight in nature, and therefore the leadership goes to the party in power. They are also part of the standing committees, but the leadership goes to the ruling party, and they mainly do appropriation role, which is a key role of Parliament, and this is the budget committee. Another role which is played under the appropriation role is through the sector committees. And these are committees which scrutinize policy statements by different ministries which report to the respective sector committees. And they are aligned in the way government is formed. If you look at how cabinet is, the ministries, these are the sectors, which we call sector committees: health committee, education committee, finance committee, agriculture, and so forth. And this is basically, since they are doing appropriation role, they support the executive, and therefore the leadership goes to the party which has formed the executive, the ruling party. And these have, of course, apart from the leadership, all members are supposed to be part of the committees. Every member of Parliament, apart from exceptional cases, belongs to each with at least 2 committees: one standing committee and one sectoral committees. In exceptional circumstances, members may have more than 2 according to our rules, and that is if you're a member of the appointments committee is a standing committee, but you can be allocated another active committee, because the appointments committee is not very active, and therefore the members might mere energies may not be put to full use.
Right.
And that's basically how we do our work in Parliament, through representation, oversight, and legislation.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Let's hear from Honorable Andrew Jok Olanya, newly elected Member of Parliament for Omoro County. I would like to hear from you. How is business running in Parliament?
Thank you, Heston, and thank you, viewers of Seetv. I'm happy to be here. But allow me to start by congratulating our new elected president in Kenya, His Excellency Ruto, on the ascension as the 5th president of Kenya. And also we lost the Queen, so we are so rest in peace. But in the good and the bad, the lessons will be picked, especially along transition. That we are learning to transition both in the monarchy setting and in the republic setting. So the lessons that we learn as a region. Yes. Allow me also just expand on what my colleague has already mentioned. That in the bit of legislation, I know that discussion will come up, that even the individual members of Parliament have been inducted. So that we're equipped to handle the business of the House. So as we speak now, Parliament of Uganda is fully equipped and trained to do business of a Parliament. He has really summarized what Parliament is doing as a business. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Mr. Henry Muguzi. What is your take you on this show, you represent so many that are watching Parliament from the outside. What is your view on the way Parliament is handling business?
Thank you very much. Of course, I represent the citizens.
Yeah.
We are the electors.
Yes.
So I look back, it's now what, 16 months, yeah? When the 11th Parliament was being constituted, when we saw the numbers of legislators from the National Unity Platform, we expected the fireworks. When business of Parliament started taking root, and the opposition came up with what they called the opposition agenda, we discovered that the kind of fireworks, like that happens in South Africa with my brother Julius Malema, was not about to happen. And then we discovered it was going to be more humble. In fact, we had discussions of whether or not the electors of the legislators of NOP, when they were electing them, they expected them to take on a diplomatic approach or to jump onto tables and disrupt the business of Parliament. But that said, that did not happen. We saw them coping. In the beginning, you talked about the contradiction of this Parliament.
Sure.
On the one hand, they have performed reasonably well in terms, if you look at the numbers of bills they have passed. On the other hand, but also if you see the stances they have taken. Okay. On the other hand, then you see them, descending into trivialities, such as recently they were discussing the nyege thing, and then you discuss other things. So it's a Parliament that has combined both. But of course, you don't expect the House to be engaging in only hard issues. Yeah? So they need to go soft sometimes, so that they get a breather. So in that case, they have worked. Of course, the other thing I need to mention here for us as independent observers, when we saw the numbers of legislators that ascribed to the NRM party, we thought this NRM-dominated Parliament is going to be reduced from being an institution of people's sovereignty to a rubber stamp, of the party in power. But when we saw the stance they took on the Pineti deal, then we thought twice. So it's a Parliament we are still studying. We are still studying. We think there are quite a number of lessons that will continue to draw. It's also a Parliament that you don't know how they do their business, because if you are told that a legislator will have to do their business on the floor within 2 minutes, 3, when I was in primary school, we would take much more time debating. So a representative of the people of Omoro comes and you give him 3 minutes. Yeah, I mean, that would be a disservice. Yeah, but so it's a Parliament we'll continue to see how it will manifest. Especially, it's a Parliament you want to see how they pronounce themselves on the bigger questions of the day, the question of transition, because the country needs about 2 or 3 transitions. The first one, transiting from electoral authoritarianism to electoral democracy, but also transiting from one leader to the next. And so we wait to see how they are going to navigate these challenges, but it's a Parliament we continue to observe with a keen interest.
Well, brilliant points there. Coming back to Honorable Nyangweso, a little bit of the 11th Parliament, I mean, it has been in the media with a lot of corridor talk. What I would call corridor talk, for instance, you members of Parliament receiving 40 million, that allegation, 40 million as, to help you in because the economic times are hard. And, all these peccadillos that come with Parliament, what do you have to say? And again, 3 minutes on the floor of Parliament, Honorable, do you think in 3 minutes you can be able to articulate all the issues that you really have to bring to the floor of Parliament?
Yeah, thank you. My brother was talking about when we degenerate into trivialities, and in reference to the case of nyege discussion in Parliament. I wanted to put this point before our viewers, that it is unfortunate that if one looked at the Hansard of that day, I was in the house, and the kind of business which was handled that day and the discussion pertaining to Nyege Nyege, you realize that this was just a bit. It was not a matter on the order paper. It was not introduced in Parliament through a motion or a petition, but a concern. The public as concerned has leaders. And when the public gets concerned, they speak through their leaders. So a member of Parliament rises on the floor and says, wait, there's this ongoing. And the Speaker asks the Executive to respond. And a little debate ensues, which is just within even the communication of the chair, before even you talk about how much the business did the Parliament handle that day. And the public was harsh on us, saying we have a lot of issues to discuss and we are wasting a lot of time. It was construed to mean as if this Nyege Nyege discussion almost even had spent 1 hour or 2 hours on the floor. Yet it was something of less than 10 minutes. So at times we are judged harshly when people don't understand the background. When somebody says MPs and they get that voice note and run it on all TVs and say this is what transpired in Parliament today. Yet it was just 7 minutes out of 4 hours where members sat. So I just wanted to put that right. And
but Honorable, just to cut it short, at that time, 16 people had died in Kasese, but Parliament in one way or the other tried to go and get into the Nyege Nyege fiasco and the Nyege Nyege
you
concert.
will realize that we spent more time discussing the Kasese floods that day when the Prime Minister came and the issue of Nyege Nyege is true, it came before the issue of Kasese.
Actually, it was not even on the order.
The issue of
Nyege Nyege was not
it was not, because it's not business for Parliament. How does it come on the order paper? Because it was not a motion, it was not a petition, it was just a matter relating to a member's right to raise a matter on the House. And it came before even the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister had a prepared script about the disaster in Kasese. But this is something which comes just after the chairman's communication, and you cannot blame us that why discussing Nyege Nyege before you discuss unless you didn't want the Speaker to communicate before business, because this Nyege Nyege came before business, just part of item number 2 after prayers. And we took time. That's why I'm saying the media has access to the Hansard. If you looked at the Hansard that day when the Prime Minister gave a report about the floods in Kasese and the responses, there was too much debate that even the Speaker ruled that no, we shouldn't go much into this debate. We still have a lot of business on the floor. But on the issues you are talking about, the corridor talks, the power, I have been in Parliament for 1 year and a few months. When we were starting the second session, I took on a staff of Parliament at Kololo, where we were waiting for the State of the Nation address. And this person was appreciating Parliament, and he was surprised. He says, we didn't expect much from you, but the stances you have stood against the executive and the bills you have moved and passed into acts, others have been ascended to, others are awaiting assenting by the President. We are shocked. And just in relation to what my brother has said, the transition, when you look at Parliament.
I want to hold you on that point. I think you get it back. I would like Mr. Henry Mugozi to weigh in here. Do you really agree with Honorable Nyangweso's submission on that corridor talk that has marred Parliament? I mean, we see it is what is taking, it's what is trending, more than even the serious critical issues.
I think you see it's the nature of society we are in, because when society is in the state we find ourselves in, where you don't necessarily, when you need government to be present, it's not there. Because in this country, government also has its contradictions. It is present and absent at the same time. When you need to fix a bridge, a pothole, it's not there. When you hold a placard there and then, they swing into action and get you. So in such situations, you see, the interest of people shifts from hard things to soft things. So those soft things, the corridor talk, seem to be gaining more traction and more interesting to the people. And so the media also now would follow the gallery and therefore would publish that. I did not know how little time they had spent, for example, on the Nyege Nyege talk. Now I understand. But of course, the amplification that the media gave it creates an impression that they spent almost 2 or 3 hours in discussing the issue. For that corridor talk is a talk that is soft. People are stressed economically, people are stressed politically, socially. People have relatives that have been held in prisons on political charges that you don't see an end to it. So they find solace in that corridor talk, and because it's softer and it's on a softer note, I think that kind of prepares. But also, they cannot speak, all of them cannot speak on the floor. So you would expect that those who cannot speak there, or even yawn on the floor of Parliament, they engage in corridor talk.
And I wanted to pick it from there.
I'd like to bring in Honorable Joke. You can go on with your
I wanted to pick it from there. That it is a challenge that we are many, and these are the costs of democracy. I myself am representing a constituency where I'm the pioneer. It was created amid the elections. And here I am a member of parliament. I never participated in the creation of a position to allow me come and represent my people. And the leadership of parliament at times is at crossroads, because at times there is a lot of pressure on members of parliament to be seen speaking on the floor. And the presiding officer must balance and give people an opportunity to be seen, to be raising the matters, and be captured also on the hazard. But basically, as you have said, at times debate in the House comes after a lot of input by members of parliament. I have told you we belong to 2 committees, but we are ex-officials of all committees of parliament. So it depends on the interest of a member to follow up business. If there is a bill that has been put on your pigeonhole, and you know it's going to the Ministry of ICT, and the committee will be scrutinizing it, you follow up the discussions there, the proceedings, you go to the committee, you give your input there, you discuss more there, because basically the House, even if you wanted an issue, it will be too late. Although we have an aspect of the committee of the whole House to consider amendments, but these are normally very few. They encourage members to go and have their discussions and form part of the committee report that will come to the House when they are going to discuss the report to pass into law. So that is the biggest challenge. But at the time, it's not enough, basically. And I have had a discussion with the leadership of Parliament at my personal level. Because the Parliament, we used to see, the Parliament that motivated us to come. The people who were there, the time they had, the issues they were raising, the Omara Tubos, the Agura Oris. You see, Parliament, not all of us pick interest in the matter in the House. And whereas you are only interested in being seen to be speaking, there are members of Parliament who are grounded. And they should be given more time to guide the discussion and also to guide other members. But when you say overall every member is going to get 2 minutes, you get experts of the subject matter, you give them 2 minutes, then others who just want to speak that day, they have no input, but at times they even embrace from the matter, and they also given 2 minutes because the leadership is under pressure. People complain, say, you are not giving me chance to speak. Even when they have nothing to speak, they must speak and say something.
Yes, Honorable. Bring in Honorable Andrew Joke. My question is, we have a bloated parliament right now. That is the word that I would say. 500 over members of parliament. Why is it that At the same time, having so many members of parliament, the rate of absenteeism in the 11th parliament is so alarming to the extent that the speaker had to raise this issue, and one member of parliament, yet to get the name, proposed and said, members of parliament should be paid according to the numbers of sittings they have attended. What do you have to say about that?
I think the issue comes back to the individual. That I have been sent to parliament by my people to represent them. Whether they choose to do business for them is up to me. Of course, we can't rule out the fact that those are one-term MPs. I come and I'm on a transactional basis. Or I only come because I know on the order paper I have interest in a particular motion. So I choose that day to come. But also the members who know that if you go beyond 15 consecutive sittings and you're absent, you lose your seat. So to come on the 14th and reset the counter. There are those who know all that. So they're transactional. So that speaks to the individual leader, that you've been assigned a task by your people. Are you there to present them, or you're there for yourself? So it comes back to the individual. So whether we put sanctions, they'll still do that counter if the individual is not motivated to work.
Yes, Mr. Henry Muguzi, he talked about MPs being transactional. Is it because it is now, earlier on in the earlier parliaments, especially, I managed to follow the parliament that was having the late Ekulo Parks, the James Wapahabulos. I mean, these were parliaments that, would motivate you to get into parliament. Where did we get it wrong? And we degenerated into a culture of looking at politics as parliament being a place to get fortune for oneself.
Yeah, you see, that organ, I have had discussions with some of my colleagues who are saying, with what we see happening in the parliament, and the politics of the parliament has some very good firebrand, well-polished legislators. But there are also others that shouldn't be in that place. So when you see those, a colleague of mine told me, we were discussing why the Ugandan intelligentsia, the elite, are not actively participating in politics and getting into that house, and said, if you ever see me getting in that house, just know I'm just trying to get access so that I can enter there with what do they call it, of suicide bombers? They call it a vest. That vest, eh? Yes. To just blow that parliament away because we don't need it. Anyway, but the thing is that these legislators go through a lot to get to parliament. Many of them have paid through the nose to access that house. We conducted a study of the election. It's true there are members, especially first-time legislators, who did not spend a lot. But those who are coming there for the second time, third time, had to spend through the nose. The primaries of the NRM party, for example, you saw what was on those queues, which had become almost transformed themselves into automatic teller machines, money just flying all over the place. So it was very expensive. We have legislators in that house who spent upwards of 500 million. You have legislators in that house who spent 1 billion shillings. You have legislators in that house who spent 2 billion. Now, when this happens, that legislator is going to be more preoccupied with recouping what they invested. Okay, and therefore you cannot recoup it in the house. You have to go out. But also the citizens, we the electors, we have redefined the role of the MP. We don't care how much Honorable Jock is speaking on the floor of Parliament. All we are caring about, when we have lost someone, has he sent some money? When we the young people are having a wedding, we are planning things, is he contributing money to us? When we are constrained financially, is he coming in to lend a hand in terms of accessing credit facilities, let alone helping us procure motorcycles to do border business? You find a legislator spending much more money. So you cannot go to the electors and say, you see, I'm the one who is moving the motion. They say, no, that's not what we want you to do. What you hear. So because of that, I think the importance that is being attached to staying in the house has lessened. Because the people want you on the ground. You ask them, they'll tell you we've been to the ground. Because if you don't go to the ground, they tell you, okay, we shall see you in the basin. And you don't want that experience of being met in the basin. And so I think we also have a lot to do. We have overburdened the legislators with the electors and made their life so hard. But of course, for us who know what Parliament should be doing, then we hold them accountable because we want them inside there. And performing the business that took them there.
Yes, Honorable Nyangweso, the character of Parliament this time around is that when members of Parliament are elected, the next thing they think about is how to get re-elected. Does this affect the quality of service a member of Parliament has to give to the nation?
Yeah, thank you. The fact that you remember what my colleague Honorable Jock said about transactional leaders. They come and they are not interested in the future. But when a member of Parliament is elected and is more preoccupied with returning to the House, then it's a positive to those who elected him because he's going to strive to offer a service. He's going to go an extra mile to be seen doing the representation role and also the support role, which has been defined, as Henry has said here, that however good you are, as long as you don't stand with the electorates, they may not see your worth. In that house, they were talking about how the last parliament suffered because of the age limit bill. But we even have those ones who voted no against the age limit. And people thought they are heroes, but were rejected by their people because of other factors other than, that standing alone. People thought it is a mark on them, but the voters have their own parameters. So if you are preoccupied with your return, you are going to do your role of follow-up, especially the oversight role of a member of Parliament. I think this is the most important role we play, that we appropriate money here, but we must follow. And the laws have put us at the center stage of follow-up. That's why you have seen even the speaker at times sending us into recess to follow up on a mioga, to go and find out the preparedness of the country for parish development model. All this is oversight role. Members of Parliament by the Road Fund Act, they are members of the road committee in the districts, all the members. So you need to be there, attend the meetings. We are ex-official members of the district councils. We are also rated, our performance on how many. I saw last time when the civil society was rating members of Parliament, and there is a column of how many district council meetings you have attended, and you saw others 0 and you see others at 80%. So it is one of the parameters for you to return home and follow up on the appropriation which you did as a member of Parliament. So if you find a member preoccupied with this return, unless it's transactional, that now my return will be monetary and I need to save as much as I can such that I can go back because my people, the language they understand is money. But other than that, you must do service. Make sure the Honorable Joko he has been telling us before we got on air. Last time he raised the matter on the floor about the nodding disease effects and asked the government to support his constituents. And he was there over the weekend to follow up and see that this support really reaches the people intended to. And if you find such a member interested in his people, then that is the best we can, other than being transactional. But as Henry has said, politics has been monetized a lot. Actually, you'd rather stand with your people than doing legislation here. doing oversight. You know, when you go to Parliament there, when they are not in session, you find over 20 coaster buses there. But when you go there tomorrow, you not find any. Why? Committees are in the field doing follow-up, oversight. All committees, even those ones who are abroad. So at times when you see members not attending Parliament, they are also busy attending other parliamentary duties. You are in the field for a week, you come back, another committee where you belong is again in the field. So you might miss the House for 2 weeks, but you are 100% preoccupied with parliamentary work. So it's not about what we discuss on the floor, but what we do to create work for the flow of Parliament.
All right, Honorable Joke, may his soul rest in peace, the late Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, who happens to be your father, and who for a short time, presided over the 11th Parliament, and also a very prolific debater. I can attest to this because several of the senior members that started politics with him testified of that. Do we see the legacy of your father trickling down in this current Parliament in terms of debate, in terms of how members of Parliament should handle parliamentary work, because it has a trickle-down effect to those that vote them?
Yes, I believe so, very strongly. Because if you look at the current vision, they want to make it a people-centered parliament. Now, core among his manifesto when he was campaigning was that they wanted to restore confidence, public confidence in the institution of parliament. Now, that can only be done if the issues that you call trivial are important to the people. So whoever determines the triviality of the issues, that is the electorate. So if the issue comes before the parliament as from the people, it might look trivial to the elite, but it's paramount to the electorate. And we're not just targeting the electorate because you have stakeholders beyond just the electorate. A child, for example, you're legislating about education. It's not about the electorate. It's about the people. So it should be a people-centered parliament. But also the leadership has been very strict on evidence-based debate. That you should not submit and you're the only source of your statistics, where you say 10% of the population is this, this, and this, and there's no reference to back it up. So they've been strict on that, but there's been a culture to see how they can groom the new entrants. So for example, you have induction. Every year, for the new parliament, there's an induction. So you train the legislators on how to debate, the decorum, the rules of procedure, how to raise issues on the floor. You could raise it through a petition or through a motion or through the committees. So they train you on how to actually be visible, not just on the floor of parliament. Then there's just one critical point I thought I would highlight, because you talked about how you can develop them. Now, I noticed the culture. I've been in parliament just about 3 months, but I've noticed the culture where if you're making your maiden speech, the presiding officer protects you. Because when you're debating on the floor of parliament, the experience is different from when you're campaigning in the open. So the presiding officer protects you so that you have even more time to elaborate your issue. So I think that's important culture, that they don't kill your confidence on the word go, but they give you time to actually grow into your element. I think that's crucial.
Yes, though you'll, maybe Henry would react to this, that also in this parliament, because Honorable Andrew here, Honorable Joke, talks about the training and the induction of members of parliament. But it's also in this parliament where we've seen some honorable members of parliament, decorum, and I won't mention names, at least we know what you're talking, the person we are talking about. What would you say? Do you think that training is adequate, or it now revolves around the character or the individual that is holding the position of member of parliament? Because one was even kicked out of being a parliamentary commissioner because of lack of decorum.
You see, that place is supposed to sit people who are honorable. Unfortunately, not everybody in that house is honorable. It speaks a lot about how we were raised as individuals in our families. one of the fundamental values of us as Africans is to respect elders. But also, as you grow, there are certain things you need to be aware of. I don't know whether some people have gone to that house at a much young age, but you see the likes of Honorable Jock.
Yes.
He's a young man, but he seems to have been raised differently. He's able to respect, elders, respect himself.
No, the genes of his father run through his blood.
So if we are going to inspire the young ones, like you said, one of Nyangweso was inspired by the likes of Wapakablo, Ekuloe Park, the debaters, the parliaments of the time, which would look at and say, oh yeah, this is honorable. So I think we need, and I think the cause is also about those blotted numbers. Because for me as a researcher, I've been trying to establish whether there is any study that connected or linked numbers with representation, with the development, with better service delivery, with better oversight. It does not follow that we must have such a huge number of legislators in the House. Why don't we, for example, have only 2 people representing a district, a man and a woman, in which case we would have half that parliament, and then we are saving on resources. So I think there are so many things, and again, I think it has to be this parliament that has to step forward, put their best foot forward to see, are you able to cause change or initiate a discussion? Because we cannot continue like this, and we need to see honorable people on the floor of parliament.
Yes, Honorable Nyangweso, I'll come back to you. On the flip side though, the 11th parliament has also, for the first time in a long time, I must say, we've seen committees working so tirelessly in this parliament, and a lot, the nook and cranny of government business, parastatals, and putting the executive to task has emerged from the 11th parliament. What would you ascribe that development to?
Yeah, this Henry has said that Parliament reflects where we come from. We are products of Uganda, and when you look at the aspirations of the voters, they sent in younger people in Parliament. And I am 43 years, but I'm sure I am above average of the age of parliamentarians. Yet I'm 43, but I'm one of those ones who are above the average, because the majority of these in the level they are 30. These are people who have trust to deliver. They have a lot of issues that brought them to the House, and they are not willing to have them blamed for having failed after reaching the arena. And therefore, at times they are hostile. When we reach the parliament, it's not about color. It's not about which party. It's about the right thing. You mentioned here about the Pineti. It was not even a bill. It was not brought in the House. It was just a committee level, and it almost died at that level. Why? Because people are looking in terms of the future, in terms of the country, not in terms of their political inclination. So the committees have much more. The committees have powers of operation of the High Court. They can summon, they can detain, they have those powers, and therefore they are using them very well. And members are very active. Today we have left Parliament towards 8 p.m. And one of the bills we have been considering is the Museums and the Monuments Bill, which was passed by the committee, which was presented by the Committee of Trade and Tourism. And the members of the committee, after the meeting, after the discussion at 8 p.m., they were boarding a bus to go to Kapeka. They are on their way right now. I was asking them, you people, aren't you going to sleep in Kawempe? Why do you go this late? I said, that's what the program does. Reads. A few members went ahead of us, but they remained together with their chairman who was presenting in the House. So at times they go an extra mile through the committees, because if the committees don't work, then basically the flow will not have business. The committees are the ones which give they bring, they scrutinize business. And if the committees delay with business, then the house, at times you have seen the leadership adjourning the house, either because the committees are not ready or the executive is not available to respond to members. And this is something that I think is going to be one of the key salient features of the 11th Parliament, that people want accountability. They will put anybody to account, regardless of the laws, the laws and downs which at times characterize the House. You know, we don't have to be very serious all the time. At times we get to low times to really contain the pressure and also try to start again. So that's all I can say, that the committees are very, very serious, and they are ever in the field. Last financial year we had the problems that we didn't have money as Parliament to do the oversight role. But fortunately this financial year some money was availed and members are in the field. I belong to a committee of public service and local government, and on Monday 19th up to Friday 24th, we shall be in the Western. And when you see members' apologies on the WhatsApp group, they are unavailability because they are with other committees in the field. So somebody is even required to be in a committee of local government here, but is also in Park Central, and this Park Central is going to Gulu, and the public service is going to Kabale, and he has to make a choice, and the main house is ongoing. And even there is a lot of business, and the members are a bit busy.
Yes, Honorable Andrew, I would like to bring you in here, and I'd like to put it, could it be that when you look from the time of the 7th Parliament, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and now to the 11th, there has been a paradigm shift on the quality of members of Parliament that come to Parliament? If you are to give a keen eye to these parliaments, do you think the kind of vibrance the 11th Parliament is having this time is due to the fact that there's been what I would call a fresh breath a fresh breath has come into Parliament, young blood, that is attribute the kind of vibrancy to that kind of play out?
My colleague has mentioned that we're the leaders we choose. So if the percentage of the youth is over 77% in Uganda, the likelihood of the leaders being young is very high. So I think it's based on the demographics, how we are currently. So we reflect the population that we lead.
Yes. Mr. Henry, you'd like to weigh in on this, because I was listening to one talk show some time back, and the lady that was on that talk show made a statement that the 11th Parliament can even stand up to the president because of these new members of Parliament, he will have again to rebuy them, and buy them out and buy them into what he wants to rubber stamp into Parliament. Do you think that could be the case?
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I think there are instances when that 11th Parliament surprises in terms of the strong against the powers that be, the executive. Many of us, because of the youthful nature of it, and because of the characteristics of young people we have, we expected this Parliament to be a house of jokers and yeah, but we are getting surprised. Honorable Nyangwe, so what you've just shared is a revelation to me, because I did not know that many of those young people have an agenda to do things differently and they care about the future. The ordinary young person in Uganda cares only about money. and the values don't matter. But now we do know that there are those that care. So I think from the point we are saying of buying them afresh, I know that even when many of them entered that house without necessarily spending a lot, which would then kind of get them to be beholden to either the people that financed them or more concerned with recouping what they invested. We learn now that there are good men and women, okay, that want to do something. So if the president wants, for example, to push through an amendment, and I understand there is a suspected constitutional amendment coming through, I don't know, amending what, then he has to buy them. And if you go down the path of buying them, that would be very expensive. But of course, we saw the election of the speaker. We saw how money purportedly, and you can prove me wrong, but from where we stand, we understand that money had to exchange hands in order to determine who gets to be voted speaker and deputy and so on. So these have been there. But on the other hand, also there is some good things they have done, good positions they have taken. The legislature, I said, the bills they have passed, that's a record number. Could it be because most of the background work was done by previous parliaments, like that this parliament now has all the time, or not to say hands, to focus on the bills? Is it that the bills they are passing are not very thrashed out bills whose quality remains to be seen? That will be only time will tell whether that can be true. But yes, it's a parliament that for us as researchers are taking keen interest in, to see how these young people are able to put country before self.
Yes, Honorable Nyangweso, we have the National Development Plan 3. I'd like to know I would like to know if the legislations that you bring in, the policy agenda that is on Parliament, that is at Parliament right now, is in conformity with the National Development Plan Phase 3, and how far has Parliament gone in making sure that the policy statements, the legislation, National Development Plan?
Yeah, thank you. Our role in this aspect is compliance. We don't generate policies, but we have a compliance check. And this is one of the key instruments to assess compliance. I sit on the Presidential Advisory Committee on the Budget, PACOB. It's not a committee of parliament, but it is a committee established by the president to guide him on the budget. And there are two things which we use to advise and support the president. One is the NDP 3, to ensure that whatever is coming in through as budget estimates comply with NDP 3. That's one key role we look at. Then two, the NRM manifesto, which is a president's pledge to the people, that whatever the ministries do, they must take into account the NRM manifesto in developing their work plans, in developing their priorities. And these are two checks which we use. I've said when it comes, and very soon I think we are going to kickstart the budget process 2023-24. And the ministries will be presenting budget framework papers to Parliament, and they will go to various committees. And the scrutiny starts with NDP 3. As we get to 2023-24, NDP 3 is under midterm review. And we should be able to see results coming in from the reports from the ministries about the progress of NDP 3, because we have now run it 2 years and this is the third year. There must be results. And the way the budgetary estimates come to Parliament, they come twofold. There is a report on previous performance, and a plan of estimates how you tend to. So the committees scrutinize this to look at the reports, the performance. What does the NDP3 say? After 5 years, what shall we have achieved? And so far, we are in two years are done. We are handling budget for third year. What results do you have? If we are behind schedule, why? We have had excuses of COVID all over. There are some ministries which never end between 2020 to almost 2021. And therefore, you will see that in terms of reporting, they will always have, because you must perform.
So I'll just like to cut it short. Right now, about now, we take a break. Discussion Matters Parliament on the big debate tonight still continues. Let's go for a break.
This is Seetv. Don't blink.
Seetv is now on StarTimes. You can now catch all your favorite programs, our daily comprehensive news bulletins, and so much more on StarTimes channel number 248. Stay tuned for a world of endless possibilities. Seetv. Don't blink.
Sometimes in life, we spend all the time trying to live other people's life. And along the way, we lose who we are by copying what other people are doing in their relationship.
You see, from the last time I met your sister, I've not spent a day or a minute without thinking about her.
It's a good surprise on a Monday. This is nice.
So you and him are
we're just friends. Wow. Come on.
just friends.
You either tell me where you're from or you go back to where you've been. Thinking it would work out for us, but yet to find out that's not who we are after experiencing a great disappointment.
She's in love with some other man, so classy, a gentleman, not orthodox like you.
These are the mistakes girls do.
Now showing on Seetv. Don't blink. This is Seetv. Don't blink.
Welcome back from that quick break. It is still the big debate. Remember, you can follow the discussion on our social media platforms. We are streaming live also on YouTube, and we're discussing Matters Parliament and how Parliament is handling parliamentary business, and does the Parliament in Uganda still serve the needs of the people? And especially, we are talking about the 11th Parliament and how they're handling parliamentary business. Well, we had in a way broken off from a point, but there is a point that came to my mind, and I would like to put it to Honorable Nyangweso, and this is really pertinent. Your colleagues in Parliament, especially those on the COSASE committee,
Accountability Committee.
Yes, exactly. They are scrutinizing a very, very important issue, the Uganda Airlines. They are unearthing a lot of information and a lot of the nook and cranny of the airlines, how it's being mismanaged. In a way, that is what we seem to get. But they are being bashed in one way, because they call this investigation, some sections of the public call this a witch hunt. Do you think that is really palatable in handling parliamentary business. I'll begin with you, Honorable Nyangweso.
Yeah, this is at times those who bash us, we say they are unfair to us. First of all, they have assigned us work to do. We are in the process of doing the work, but then we are bashed because of the way we are doing it. And basically, we do it through our rules of procedure. And you remember when even a member of parliament addressed the media to criticize the proceedings of Kosase, the speaker had to call him to order and say, you must leave the committee the independence to do their work. The Kosase has not just come out of a blue to assess the Uganda Airlines. They are considering the report of that Auditor General. Auditor General is an office of Parliament and he reports to Parliament. He audits, he does financial audits and value for money audits of these agencies and reports to Parliament. So the Kosase committee is scrutinizing the report and they have reached the page of Uganda Airlines and they want to give a fair hearing to the management of the airline. And when they are called, you see, they were asking, I wouldn't want to go into detail of this because the report, we shall have an opportunity to discuss when the Kosase committee reports to Parliament. But people were wondering, why would the committee delve into someone's academic documents? But if you have hired a driver and you realize he's not driving the right way, I think as a passenger you have a right to ask that, do you have a permit? Can I look at your permit? Because the problem could be from there. It's there after that you will say, is he drunk? You must now be conscious. So when later by the Auditor General and they have questions to ask the way the airline is running, and you see part of the airline running is management, and part of management you must be grounded in experience and education, and they get into this and the public says, but what's wrong? Members of Parliament who have senior six and they earn this much, they are asking why they trivialize the discussions and they make the members of Parliament to lose their sense of direction, because you are doing your right work according to the rules of procedure. The people who are being investigated or interrogated have a right to say, I am being unfairly treated here, because it's a cordial working environment where you come to answer queries raised by the Auditor General. But if you don't want the agencies to respond to queries raised, and Parliament is working on behalf of the people, then who is going to scrutinize these agencies? And Parliament is the one which has appropriated the money which the Auditor General has audited. This is a cycle, and this is how Parliament runs. I want to say, and I have said it before, that possibly our department at Parliament, in charge of corporate affairs and information, needs to do more to sensitize the public about the roles of Parliament, such that people can understand with us and scrutinize us when they are fully aware of what our do's and our don'ts. Because when they don't, at times they unfairly assess Parliament. That's all I would say.
Yes, I'll bring in Mr. Henry Muguzi here. We have a maxim in law that says that he who seeks equity must come with clean hands. Now, when you see that statement, we look at Joel Senyonyi, the chairperson of Kosase, coming out and saying, you know, I've gotten a phone call threatening me, and yet he seems to be doing the right thing. But I mean, there are those, he's being threatened. What does this show in terms of our legislative and political culture, that the independence of Parliament is not as solid as it should be, as enshrined in the Constitution?
You see, one of the challenges of a developing society such as Uganda is that the principles of accountability, transparency, openness in public office are not appreciated. It's one reason why you see people, even when they go to vote, you tell them this person has been in public service, he's been a thief. They'll tell you, yes, but he's been sharing with us. He's our person. They vote for them. Without asking the money you are using, where are you getting it from? And then you come to the context of Uganda, the functionality of institutions. Over the last, the last I think 20 years, there's been an overbearing influence of the executive trying to capture the legislature, which is why when you see a committee that is doing really good work, because you see Uganda Airlines is a public office. If you don't want to be scrutinized and exposed, don't go to public office. Like they say, if you choose to go and join monkey dance, when the tails of monkeys touch you, don't complain because you went there. But you see also the head of state, who should be the the fountain of accountability, leading from the front, coming down, coming out and trying to undermine the chairperson of the committee. Of course, that's saying this lady is being victimized because she has not wetted the beak of, you see, the principles of accountability. And it comes from our own families. We don't want to be held accountable. Husbands don't want to be asked, where is the money you have earned? Why are you returning late? Why are you doing this? And it goes to public office. So I think the time has come for us, and especially you, the young leaders of today, the jokes of this world, to start changing these things. It comes from leadership. It's one thing that has hollowed up all public institutions, because there is a parallel system, an informal system that seems to be, more powerful than the established system. And of course, when people get to on the wrong side of the law, and the law the enforcers try to do their work, and then they get to be undermined. I know of cases where someone goes and blows the whistle on corruption, and before the person goes back, leaves the office, they receive a call from the very person that they are blowing the whistle against, saying, you leave me alone. And then you wonder, so the person I've blown the whistle to has informed this one. So it's a racket of things that seems to be undermining accountability. And without accountability in public office, without transparency, the people that we cannot progress, we cannot have development, we cannot ascertain and ensure that the public resources are put to the best possible use. And the people occupying these offices must understand that you have chosen to come to public office and handle public resources. We need accountability as the taxpayers. And therefore, when a committee, an innocent committee such as COSASE, tries to help us expose some of these things, we want to know, how were you recruited? Do you have papers? Some people have manufactured papers from NASA Road. So we want to know, do you have the capacity? Where is the problem? Because all of us, as you can see, quite a number of legislators would wish Uganda well. And so for me, I think the time has come for us, the electors, the citizens, to support the good men and women who are trying to do their best, but also, rein into those leaders who are sometimes, I want to call misleaders, because you see, if there is a matter, the matter, of public interest, we don't want to be seen to be protecting some, and this thing has to stop.
Yes, Honorable Andrew Joke, I think here you come in, and I would like you to weigh in on his submission, but also take note that these committees are, do you because you NRM, and most the heavy burden, the heavy lifting is on the party that you subscribe to. Do you think, what is hindering this? Don't you think that in one way or the other, we need to see committees being left, being independent and doing their work, because that is their constitutional role? Do you really accept that it is now the party that you subscribe to is really part of this game of trying to hinder some of these committees from doing their work in unearthing the nook and cranny and corruption in public institutions?
Right. Let me start it this way. The president has spoken so many times about his fight against corruption, but also in our bid to become more transparent in the accountability bit of it, we have decided to have the sessions with the media in present. So the media has been part of this whole COSASE probe. Now the challenge here, if you look at the Kenyan elections, is that just like a court proceeding, there will be revelations every day. But the conclusion could be different. Now there's a term in law that for trivial issues, the law knows no cure. There's a Latin phrase for it, that for trivial issues, the law knows no cure. So for you might have so many issues, but they're all trivial to the investigation. So the prayer that the presiding officer that day made was that let the committee complete the process and report. But now the media reports in drunks. For the day they report and conclude that now she didn't have papers. But the next day she brings her papers. Now, what the story that runs always the negative news, you know it very well, that what is negative sells more. So our prayer has always been, let the investigations be conclusive. The report will come out, and then we can debate it.
I'd like to pull the jugular right now on news, Honorable Andrew. For instance, now on Friday, as you to note, the Nyege festival is going to take place. And amidst a lot of rock pulling here and there, Parliament came out strongly through the Speaker and refused, and actually she was very emphatic and said the Nyege festival will not take place. And later on we see the Prime Minister saying no, it will take place. Doesn't this bring out the latent disunity between the executive and Parliament on that kind of issue? Don't you think it brings out the fact that these three arms, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive, have to work in conformity? What is your take on that?
That's a tricky question, because you have two institutions. One has a position where they can offer the advice, and as Parliament, the Parliament's position was that this Nyege should not proceed. That's the Parliament's position. But the executive has its own position as well, which I don't think there's a problem with disagreeing, as long as we have an amicable way forward. Because the main issue, the crux of the issue was that the morals of the country are degenerating. And then you knowing that this is going to happen and you do nothing about it is soiling your conscience. So you make your position clear that unless this and this are done, I am not in support of this particular event. And that was very clear. And I believe that the executive came up with the guidelines. And I believe they reinforced security and the like. So some of those things regarding the morals will be addressed in that event.
Yes.
I want to
okay, you can come in.
Yeah, because for me as an observer, a citizen observer who would want to, who is aware that one of the challenges we have in our development, raising money for implementing that development, National Development Plan 3, is we don't have resources. I was speaking to a group of youth, and they were saying, oh, we are coming to your country. And I said, what is there? No, this famous festival, which one? Nyege Nyege. So for me, if Uganda is looking for tourist attractions, that is one of them. Because of the international appeal it is commanding. So I think a house, a legislature, what its name, should be able to recognize some of these things. In society, people who have such morals and people like that are always there. Which, if I was the executive, I would actually find a way of making sure that we ring fence that place where they want to be, so that the good people in our society don't go there. But these who want to go and waste themselves more, they can go for as long as they bring us dollars. Because when they come after Nyege Nyege, then they will travel to Kisoro, they will travel to Maction, or what's called like Kamburo National Park, or Queen Victoria National Park. So I think the parliament, the legislators, then we're not seeing the bigger picture. And of course, we're not always going to make money from always very nice things and so on. If you see an opportunity, seize it. The executive is trying to seize the opportunity.
Andrew, I'd like to put it to you. Are you saying that we need to milk a lot of money from such festivals at the behest of morals and culture, as that would taint, because Uganda is a cultured nation? So
you see, immorality has been here since the days of Jesus. Jesus found immorality here. He left it here. So there's no way you're going to say, I'm going to have a society that is 100% moralistic. So at any one time, those are there. But once you sense an opportunity of something you can sell, you ring fence it, that you protect the good people and let those because whether Nyege Nyege is there or not, those moral people with such morals will be there. I don't go to Nyege Nyege. But me, I think it's a good tourist attraction, because if you hear the international appeal, when you follow the international appeal of that festival, you say, okay, so people save money to come here and bring their dollars, and we take them. Good for the country.
By the way, just to remind us a little bit, I think you remember the beauty pageant that came out called Miss Curvy. I think and it also was awash in the media circles, and the same issues were being raised, morals and what we are promoting, sexuality, and all that came with that. I think all that comes with such festivals. But Honorable Nyangweso, we in this Nyege Nyege debate that was in Parliament, people seem to say, some sections of the public seem to say that the Speaker overstepped her mandate in trying to weigh in on the festival. Do you want to agree with that?
Yeah, thank you. I don't agree with them, because as I've said, we represent people. Parliament's first role is representational, and we raise matters there from our people. And this was a matter that was raised to Parliament and on the floor, and the Speaker, as the presiding officer, one, listened to the government side, she was not impressed, and was concerned. You have seen how the executive has responded by promising to police the event, to ensure that morality is maintained at a certain minimum. And it has also helped, actually, the organizers to be conscious of what is required of them. And without the Speaker's stand, possibly this wouldn't have been the case. Now everybody is so conscious, to the extent that somebody said, what about if people carry clothes and go with their bags and reach inside and change into nudity and get... But this is okay, they will have changed, like Henry has said, in a gazetted place. Other than people on ginger streets, moving naked because Nyege Nyege is in town. And this has now been brought to the attention of the executive. They have promised they will do their best. And their concern was also that the pronouncement was coming in very late, when a lot of arrangements had been done, and the reconsideration had also to be done for a win-win situation.
Yes, still Honorable Nyangweso, Honorable Elijah Okupa, on the floor of Parliament, talked to the Speaker and said, how can number 8 in the hierarchy of Uganda's political hierarchy. Challenge you number 3. I mean, what explains this? Because are we seeing a latent competition between the executive and hold it between the executive and the legislature, and yet knowing that the Prime Minister is the lead of government business in Parliament, and this is taking place? It was really quite dumbfounding.
Unpalatable.
Yes.
Yeah, like Henry has said, Parliament is a product of society. I remember when I was growing up, we would go and people would incite us to fight. There are those people who could just incite people. I said, do this. You see what he has done. You do something. So we also have those kinds of people in the house who want to incite. Because one, the speaker was not making that decision as a speaker. She was a presiding judge, and a debate ensued, and she was giving direction. I don't think even that the Prime Minister was presenting because she's number 9. She was presenting because this is her responsibility. Even if she was not there and the minister stood to report in her place, like they did before, Right Honorable Lumumba was the one taking the portfolio of the Prime Minister, and I know what number she is. But she was presenting on behalf of the executive. You see, these arms of government, Lano, I don't believe there is one which is more powerful than the other. After all, I don't know whether one can efficiently function without the other. So we need one another. We just need to understand the limits under which we know. Of course, it is not within our mandate to stop. We don't have police. Parliament doesn't have police. 2, we have already appropriated money. If the ministries are using part of that money to carry out some of those activities, then the reports will come through the sector committees, and Parliament will have to discuss now in detail. But it is not who has more powers, but it's about the functionality of the state, of government. That's what is important.
Yes, Honorable Joke, I think you can weigh in on this. At least in law, there is what we call precedent, and this whole fiasco that happened reminds me of the time when one of the justices made a court order, I think, that was affecting Parliament, and the then Speaker, actually it was Justice Stephen Kavuma, made a court order that was affecting one of the legislations in Parliament, and the Speaker then, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, came out and told the Attorney General to go and vacate that order. That was a friction immediately. That was just a friction between Parliament and the judiciary. Are we seeing the same latent precedent? Yes, actually, I'm being reminded that she called it a stupid order. But then, so is this setting a precedent that we see that these arms of government are not, in one way, there is that friction? And do you think it's healthy for our political culture?
As my colleague mentioned, those are 3 distinct arms of government. And you need to strike a balance, a working relationship, so you can work smoothly with each other. Of course, there will be cases where you overstep, but we need to see how we agree to work together. Because without one arm, as my colleague mentioned, you will not function well. Without the appropriation from Parliament, you have no budget to run the judiciary or budget to run the executive. Without business from executive, there might be no Parliament. Without the judiciary, there will be no cause for, no place for laws, for your laws. You made laws, where will they go? Who will implement them? So we have to work hand in hand with each other, but also knowing the boundaries, where we are not to overstep. We need to have decorum. Much as I disagree with you, I can put my point across in a respectful way. I don't have to insult you, I don't have to abuse you. I just split out for you that this is wrong. Can we work closely together? I think we can work together with better conflict management.
Yeah, I just wanted to support my colleague by saying, you know, Uganda, we are building a democracy. And these are the pains we go through.
Birthing pains.
Yes, the birth pains. In Kenya, in Swahili, there is a saying that kujenga ni kubomoa. That to build is to break. You must break here and build here and then break here. At the end of the day, you have a very beautiful structure. So what you see are the pains of democracy, and it is healthy because these are different bodies all struggling to coexist. And as Ojok says, conflict is bound to arise. What is important is how to manage the conflict. But when we have all the types of people I have told you who try to blow out of promotion, the proportion, the media are trying to pick it up and then there's a rift between, there's a fight. These are normal disagreements. They are bound to be there. But there are those ones who want to take advantage and say, how can number 9 question number 3? You know, and you make people now become emotional. And want to show power, yet it's not a show of power. It is just about leadership. How do you go over it and manage the situation calmly?
Mr. Henry Muguzi, I'd like to bring you in here. I read, I don't know if you've read that book. It's called Common Sense by Thomas Paine, a famous philosopher who wrote that book in the time when America was fighting for its independence. And he made a statement. He said that society in every way is a blessing, but government, even in its best state, is but necessary evil. Do you believe in one way, if we see this cataclysmic beat of parliament, judiciary, executive in this country conflicting on actually sometimes very trivial issues, what does that speak to? Because Honorable Nyangweso talked about we are building a democracy that has had one president go for over 36 years. What is your reaction?
You see, the principle of equity between the 3 pillars of governance, where you have the executive, and then you have the judiciary, and then you have the legislature, exists where you have a civilian establishment. In the case of Uganda, you have this military establishment that metamorphoses and envelopes itself as a civilian regime that is headed by a very imperious character that wants to control the parliament. Now, in that case, you cannot say that this character can allow parliament, the legislature, to function as it should, keeping the executive in check. Now, that same character has appointed almost every member of the judiciary. The framers of the Constitution of Uganda, I think, did not foresee a situation where we shall have one individual who will stay for 40 years, during which time he has appointed everybody. And whoever he appoints, you know what they say? Mzee Ampadde. And they feel duty-bound to return a certain favor in a certain form. You cannot have independent institutions in such situations. So I think until we transit from what we have, what people call a democracy, we cannot have democracy when you don't have Democrats. Because Democrats are tolerant. You cannot say we have democracy when political parties until today are not allowed to do activities beyond their headquarters. If FDC members dare set foot out of Kampala to go to another district out of Kampala, out of their headquarters, to mobilize, sell ideology, they cannot be permitted. You cannot have democracy there. So you cannot have democracy without defining the role of the military. What is it going to be? Because the military, and I keep telling people, President Museveni came here as a civilian. in 1980. We refused him access to State House. Who helped him go to State House? The military. Even if it were me, I would continue being beholden to the thing that brought power and keeping me there. So I think it's about what we call democracy, which I think we don't have. I think we will pray that time will come when we shall see it, and that time we can start talking, having a discussion of independent judiciary, independent executive, then you have a legislature. For now, I think these institutions are not independent.
Yeah, in one way or the other, actually, you talk about democracy, and I think it was Walter Rodney who said that some societies are under an aristocracy, disguising themselves as a kleptocracy, that are running a democracy that is in dire need of a theocracy. But yeah, that was Walter Rodney. But coming back to Honorable Nyangweso, you talked about building democracy. I bring it back to the quality of debate in Parliament, the tyranny of numbers of the national resistance movement. Could it be that it is in one way it may be good for the ruling party, but in one way or the other it acts as a hedge to the minority, putting issues forward and debating on some of the critical issues? Because as a member of parliament on the opposition side, some of them may sit back and say, after all, NRM has the tyranny of numbers, we can have this lie low.
You need to appreciate and follow up parliamentary proceedings to appreciate that in that house it's not about numbers. It goes beyond to issues. I've had instances in that house where we receive both the committee report, in which case is always maybe pro-government, alongside minority reports. And Parliament has gone ahead to debate these two reports, and at times adopted the minority report. There are instances where I sit on the budget committee, we have instances where the minority report of the budget committee has carried the day. Yet the numbers in Parliament favor the ruling party. So at times it's not about numbers, but issues which people look at as being key and pertinent to the people they represent. But as I told you, the way Parliament is structured also, it's a big challenge, and this is what Henry was talking about, where the administration of Parliament says that for such a committee, the leadership shall be for the ruling party. I am a bit uncomfortable with that. I wanted a situation where members of Parliament are designated to committees and they elect their own leadership. So it's about members to say our leader in this committee. But if you already predetermine that COSASE it is nope, you see, that's the challenge. And possibly one time we shall open up a discussion on our rules of procedure, such that you create committees, you designate members sit there and determine their own leadership. We must promote democracy from that house, such that the leaders are accountable to the members of the committee who have put them there. But when you say this committee, it is for NRM, this committee is for, it has even disadvantage, like some of us. Me, I'm an independent member of Parliament, but aligned to the ruling party. But when it comes to committee leadership, you can't get, because the NRM has committees, they are designating their members for leadership. Opposition have their own committees. You need to go and beg which side you support daily. That party designates you, you have nowhere to showcase your leadership abilities. You have to be handpicked before you can be given an opportunity to lead. And that's the biggest challenge. And it's not now about numbers, but it's about the law, the Administration of Parliament Act, which we used to create our own rules of procedure. Before you go there, you know that COSASE is for opposition. Government Assurance Committee is opposition. You can't even if you have been designated there, they designate you when they have already given a member to chair. Budget Committee, the NRM will nominate a chair. So they put you there and there's already a chair. The chair does not have to report to you because he came as a chair. He reports where he came from as a chair. So he's not accountable to the members. That's the challenge if we want to deepen the democracy.
I think the principle is that government cannot check on itself. I think which is why those accountability committees kind of reserved for the opposition. That's my
gentlemen, I'm afraid we are getting into the final bit of our discussion, and I would like to give you a chance to give your final parting shot tonight on the big debate on Seetv. I'll begin with you, Honorable Nyangweso.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to sit here at Seetv. This is my maiden appearance, and I hope you invite me more to interact with your viewers. I want to assure Ugandans that Parliament is a people-centered institution. It's there to work for the common man. All we need is support and also positive criticism. We don't say you shouldn't be criticized, because criticism will help us to improve on our work processes and how we deliver. But so far, I think apart from people wanting us to develop a conflict, because where they will rate you is where there is an impasse. And we don't want to be rated for creating or existing in an impasse. We want to be rated on how we deliver. How many bills have we delivered, and what are these bills? So the media and the civil society must help the population to understand, are these pro-people bills we are passing? What is the implication? Such that they can appreciate. Did we what was the government position? We don't pass these bills the way they have been presented by the executive. They are presented, they are changed by the committees, they are even changed by the committee of the whole house to reflect the aspirations of people. But when we pass, some people may think the law is just passed because we are a rubber stamp. So if you don't understand that cooking of these bills, you will not appreciate. And also, the quantities also matter. We are measured and say in the second session, we have 70 bills to pass. So at the end of the second session, how many have we passed before saying that members of parliament are absent? They don't attend parliament. At times, like in the first parliament, we overshot the bills we were supposed to pass. But that is not coming out clearly. What is coming out clearly is that people are too many, they speak for 1 minute, they are absent. You know, the negatives overshadow the good work of Parliament. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Henry Muguzi, your parting shot tonight.
Absolutely, and it could not have been me to live tonight without saying this. I think one of the gifts you can give us as the 11th Parliament is to help us to tame the monster that is eating up our politics, which is unregulated money there. So may I make a rally call to you, the 11th Parliament members here, that it's important for one of you or a group of you to step forward and champion legislation on campaign financing, so that we can, ring fence what we want to espouse as democracy. I thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Muguzi. You're having the final word on the show tonight, Honorable Ojok Andrew Olanya.
Thank you, Heston. Thank you, Seetv. The fact that I've been in Parliament for just 3 months and you've come to discuss the quality of debate is very telling. And I'm humbled to be here. Regarding the topic for the day, the quality debate. I just want to put on record, it has resource centers in Kingdom, Kampala. It has a resource center in Parliament building. It also has a resource center in Development House, where the MPs have offices. So they're able to actually do the research. Furthermore, Parliament has a fully fledged research department, where you have a research assistant. So you as a member of Parliament can get assistance in terms of research. So the issue of research and quality should not come up at the institutional level. It should be at the individual level. Now regarding the debates, yes, Parliament has done its part. But then while we debate, beyond the quality, what is the content of the debate? My colleague has talked about are they pro-people? Yes, I can have the best debaters in Parliament, but they're passing draconian laws. So the content should supersede actually the quality. Is the content pro-people, whatever we're debating? Then also in my final comment, that political or parliamentary would be a zero-sum game. Here the only winner is the country. That the interest of the country should be at the heart of all the debates. Beyond the individual or party interest, the country should come first. And I want to thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. 2 honorables and 1 governance expert on the show. Thank you so much. The debate was quite full of insight. Well, that brings us to the end of the big debate tonight. You've had Matters Parliament. Parliament should be pro-people, and Parliament should serve as the people that vote members of Parliament into the August House. I've been Aston Munanura. I'd like to wish you a good night. See you next week.